For this last step, you're going to be adding color to the background only of your project, creating sort of a wallpaper effect. Now, we will never ever be coloring over our design. We'll be coloring in our design. So I'm just going to focus on one section right now, and eventually we will move to each section, but for the purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to focus on this section right here. So I have several areas to think about. I have shapes and I have background lines. You'll be doing this in color pencil. If you have if you have more color pencils than the 12 that I gave you, please feel free to use them. But I'm going to start first by coloring in my smaller shapes, making sure that my pencils are sharp. So I'm going to color in my triangles first. I'm doing them with like a light green. And then I'm going to choose a background color for inside the triangle stripes. And then I will do my squares in their background. So I'm never like coloring the triangles and coloring the background stripe the same, which is why we made our shapes a decent size and not teeny tiny. Okay, for the background, I'm going to color that a violet. So when I'm trying to be really neat, I usually outline first around, so I'm creating parameters or borders. I'm also going to come down this inside of this line because I don't want to color across it. So I'm creating like a barrier that I won't cross as I begin to color. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to work my way down this zigzag edge so everything is really clean and neat. I mean, it pays to take your time, and you will have plenty of time to get this done. Okay, so now I'm going to trace around my triangles. So that's the next barrier I'm creating. And then I will fill anything that's in the background. And I'm doing this pretty densely, like I'm not shading lightly with my color pencil. I'm putting this on pretty heavy so that I'll have a good contrast. So I want the background to be really sort of bright and color saturated compared to the hand, which I'm going to leave black and white. Okay, so there's my background in there. I'm just going to make sure I fill cleanly, get rid of all the white. So my first stripe is done. Then I'd come into this one. I'm going to trace around these. And I'm just going to take my time and enjoy how neat it's coming out. And also, it is better to do it right the first time than to make a mess of something that we've worked on for multiple days and have to redo something or take a bad grade on this final step of the project. So take your time, create those barriers on the edges, and then fill as neatly and cleanly as you can in those background spaces. Okay. All right. So I have 2 more sections to go, but I'm going to let that sit for a minute, and I'm going to just show you what I would do with the next one. All right, so I'm going to come into here. Now I would color this and color this, but I'm not going to spend the time doing that. You don't need to watch me coloring a bunch of stuff, but I do want to make a point that I would definitely do something in the opposing rows. So for my squares, I'm going to do the squares themselves lime green. No, I'm going to change to a blue. I'm going to do the squares themselves light blue. Okay, so I'd come through and I'm coloring all my squares. I would go, well, I have this color. And if you have, again, if you have more colors than I gave you, most people have some color pencils laying around their house. You may come in here and add more colors. Come into here and here. And then I'm going to come into this background and I'm going to do this in orange. So I'm going to create like a bright contrast between the violet and the green. So I'm never coloring, like I didn't color the whole background one color. I'm using the stripes. Okay, and then I'm going to keep moving my way through, doing the background of this one. First going to go around the edges to create a barrier. And then I'm going to trace around my shapes, and then fill. Okay, so you're going to do this into each section. This is just my first section with the next section. So we're going to say that I've finished this even though I haven't. Okay, so you'd finish. When I go into the next section, the only rule I want to follow is I'm never going to put, like, these colors here will never be that violet. So, you know, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to color my hearts red. I'm going to color, let's see, I'm going to color my circles pink. So I'm going to alternate pink and another color just to make it more interesting. So I'm going to do pink and a darker violet. And then I'm going to do in the background, you know, I'm going to do this stripe is going to be lime green. So the light green. And then I'm going to alternate that with behind my hearts, I'm going to do blue. So I would then be alternating, you know, green and blue as I go up my stripes here. Okay, so again, green, then blue, then this would be green again, and then blue. So I'm never putting a color right next to another identical color. I'm always contrasting within each pattern. And that is it. We will have at least one full day for coloring. Potentially, you'll also have that half hour of Friday to finish your work, and we'll see how far we get. When you're done and you've colored the entire background, but left your hand no color in the hand. So the entire background in here will get color. So it will look something like this, where the entire background will get color and inside the hand will remain black and white. When you've colored your entire background, you will photograph and submit your work.